In the world of WWE, there are plenty of superstars, but today there is only one megastar, and that is LA Knight. As time goes on, it looks as though he continues to get bigger and bigger reactions from the crowd. With big things seemingly to come in his future, there are some things WWE does not want you to know or want you to forget about LA Knight. Let's talk about that in today's Wrestling Ramble. After making his professional wrestling debut in 2003, LA Knight would compete on the independent circuit and then make his way to NWA Championship Wrestling from Hollywood using his birth name Shawn Ricker. He would also be with WWE for a short stint, but really made his name in Impact Wrestling from 2015 to 2019. In Impact as Eli Drake, he would show off his incredible charisma and his promo abilities, much like we see today in WWE. While he would eventually become a world champion for Impact Wrestling, his run left a lot to be desired creatively. LA Knight even took shots at the creative team in Impact Wrestling as a whole, which was a part of the reason that he was fired. The straw that broke the camel's back, however, was his refusal to wrestle a match against Tessa Blanchard. He was booked to face Blanchard in an intergender wrestling match at the United We Stand event for April 4th, 2019. He had previously told Impact Wrestling in January of that year that he would be leaving the company, as he then refused to take part in a competitive match with Blanchard. Going into detail on his firing from Impact Wrestling, LA Knight, then known as Eli Drake, would tell Chris Van Vliet on June 24th, 2019 this.
How did this whole situation with Impact end up ending?
So back in January, I basically just let them know, like, hey, I'm not intending to stay this year.
And your contract was going to be up when?
May 31st.
Okay.
So I kind of let them know my intentions, that I wasn't planning to stay this year. I really thought about it last year, and I almost left. I know they thought I was leaving. I thought I was leaving at one point, and I ultimately decided to stay. And I was just kind of came to the decision, like, there's a lot of options now. I wasn't happy with how, like, the first half of the last year went for me, but I will say the last part of the year was a lot of fun. Just doing what, even though it was like Ellsworth, whatever, just doing what we did in New York, just that play that I had with the audience there and with him, so much fun. And it was like from then on, it was like a great time. And it just felt like there was more of an investment in me and whatnot. So I know that when I had said some of the stuff, they were like, I think he's disparaging. And it wasn't a disparaging thing. It was like, here's my feelings on how it went, whatever.
Yeah.
And eventually we kind of hashed it out. We had some emails back and forth, and finally had a phone call with Ed Nordholm maybe 3 weeks ago or so. It was just before the beginning of June. So it couldn't have been 3 weeks ago. We'll say 2 weeks ago. But he was very gracious to reach out. We had kind of spoken at length about what we could agree on, what we could do to move forward in a way that's amicable. And I was just telling him, like, I have no intentions of ever kind of giving Impact a bad rap. They've been very good to me. I live a comfortable life because of the money that I made there. I haven't done much of anything in the past 2 months since I was released on April 7th, which, that was a little weird because, again, I only had, 40 days or something like that left on my contract.
So was this intergender match really the thing that made them go,
it was part of it.
We don't want you around anymore?
There were basically three things that were named, three offenses, if you will. But I think a lot of it just came from misunderstandings in that nature. Because basically what ended up happening was, so they announced the match, and I had no prior knowledge of it. Nobody had said anything.
So you're just finding out about it when they announced it?
I found out about it on Twitter. And that's not terribly abnormal, I don't think. I think that's a more special situation, though, only because I know that somebody else had already turned that match down. Because of his own discomfort with it. But that's neither here nor there. I understand that they have a pressure to announce events and get it out there. So I completely understand that. I completely empathize with that. When you've got 20 or 30 wrestlers and you've got 2 or 3 guys doing creative, there's obviously challenges there. At the same time, when I saw the announcement, I immediately emailed the necessary outlets and just said, "Hey guys, I'm not comfortable doing this. I will wrestle anybody else on the roster. I'm not very comfortable doing an intergender match." And I didn't hear anything after 3 or 4 hours. And I get that they can be busy, that happens. But at that point, it was like I didn't see the announcement come down. I didn't see a return email, and I was just like, the announcement just kept building and building, and I was getting so many more mentions. And I was like, I gotta just get out in front of this. And so I tried to do it as respectfully as I could, and just be like, hey, look, I've got massive amount of respect for Impact Wrestling. They've done a lot for me. They've given me a platform. I had their belts here sitting behind me that I proudly display, and I have amazing respect for Tessa Blanchard. I've literally told many people that she, I think, is easily the best female wrestler in the world. And part of that's just like, she's so intense with like everything she does, and her facials and the moves, the actions. But at the same time, it was like, with all that considered, I wasn't comfortable with doing it.
When it comes to other reasons for his firing, Fightful would write, the outspoken Eli Drake's release from the company has been linked to his refusal to wrestle Tessa Blanchard, a situation in which many figured to be a work. As it turns out, it wasn't, and Impact fired Drake via email as a result, along with a couple of other reasons. According to a source, there was also a situation cited where Impact's writers felt Drake had disparaged them on the Wrestling Perspective podcast, when he said that they booked him into oblivion after not being figured into many plans. That added to the Tessa Blanchard situation, and Drake mentioning in a tweet that Killer Cross would destroy Jordan Grace in a real fight led to Impact Wrestling severing ties with Drake. While WWE would want to not mention Impact Wrestling and his being there, they definitely won't want to bring up that LA Knight was fired by them. Speaking of firings, LA Knight was also let go by WWE. He made his first appearance for WWE in a dark match on May 5th of 2006, where he and Jon Moxley faced Big Show in a handicap match. He would go on to make an appearance in a dark match for ECW in 2008, and was a security guard in August of 2011 for the segment between CM Punk and Kevin Nash on Raw. In May of 2013, he would be reporting to the WWE Performance Center, training under the new ring name of Slate Randall, and having dark matches on NXT. He would then have a slew of matches on NXT against the likes of Baron Corbin, Mason Ryan, and Mojo Rawley, coming up short in all of them, but by August 1st of 2014, he was released from his WWE deal. Explaining the situation regarding his release from WWE, he would tell Chris Van Vliet this on June 27th of 2023.
I mean, a lot of people know, but not everybody knows that you were in WWE developmental. You were in the PC 10 years ago. Didn't work out. You got another chance. What do you think led up to you getting another chance in WWE?
Well, because when I got let go the first time, it wasn't because of a talent issue, and that was made very clear to me. It was very much a professional issue. There was a perception with me and the head coach at the time, and the way that things were going were not good, because I was poking the bear because things that were happening and the way things were going. Well, eventually he was out, and then I was kind of floating around the ether here, and I'd run into some people, and they were like, "Hey, what do you think about coming back?" I said, "I'd love to come back." And the only issue was, since leaving with Heat, I was kind of given the same offer I had the first time around, and I was making more money where I was. So I was like, I'm going to stay here for a year or two, hang on to this. And so I did. And for the immediate future, that was probably the best move. Long term, not the best move, because I had quickly hit the ceiling financially, professionally, whatever, where I was. And at some point it was like, all right, well, I'm going to have to take this short-term downgrade in pay, because even though I'm making more here, I'm stuck. But if I take this downgrade here, eventually I can be well above here.
After making his return to WWE, he would find himself on NXT, where he would be introduced to fans as LA Knight. Moving on to the main roster, he would be repackaged under Vince McMahon, who was in charge of creative at the time, as Max Dupree, and was a manager for the Maximum male models. Many fans were obviously disappointed with this, knowing the talent of him as a professional wrestler. Eventually, he would go back to being LA Knight, but there was a time that he was worried he would be fired. He said this about the feeling that he was going to lose his job in WWE last year during that previously mentioned interview. Well, let me just go ahead and say this. I'm pretty sure I was fired and it just hadn't officially happened yet. Without getting into too many details, some things happened. I don't remember what it was, but some things happened. And then I'd gotten a FaceTime, hey, you know, we want to keep you around. We want to do this, that, whatever. And okay, cool, good. So somehow I had been saved from being thrown off the cliff. At least this is my interpretation of it. Maybe I'm incorrect, I don't know. So eventually, just things kind of worked out. I think that maybe some of the testament to why things are working the way they are and the people are reacting the way they are is because one of these was not me, and I don't know who it was. And one of these is very much just me. Like, I don't have to think about LA Knight. I don't really have to dig in like, what is this? Who am I? What am I doing? I just go and do, because it's just me heightened. There's no doubt that WWE is going to be hoping fans have a short-term memory and don't recall anything that has to do with Max Dupree. They especially will not want fans to think about the fact that he was nearly fired. And these are things WWE wants you to forget about LA Knight. I hope you're all having a great day. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see y'all later.